Welcome to this session of the Women in Coaches webinar. We're delighted to have with us Brandi Kist from the Queen's University of North Carolina. Brandi, welcome. Thanks for coming and joining us today. We're going to jump through these questions. I'm really excited to hear from you. And congratulations on your new D1 status. I know that was sort of conferred on you guys just a couple of months ago. Was that right?
Yeah, in May. So
good stuff. Well, Brandi, firstly, let's have a look at your coaching philosophy. How do you describe your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, so I really focus a lot more on our student athletes as a whole. Field hockey is kind of a vehicle to help, teach them life lessons and things like that. So I definitely see them beyond just, what they do on the field. So a lot of what we do and the way I believe, is an effective way that's worked for us in terms of running our program is we really focus on a lot of communication, a lot of relationship building, making connections with the team. We don't have the expectation that everybody's going to be best friends, on the team, but the more that they can understand each other and know kind of about their family and what their major is and what they want to do after graduation and some of their kind of personal values and hopes and dreams and all of that, the better those connections are off the field, we find that translates into much better connection on the field, better kind of patience with each other when faced with some tough challenges, being able to problem solve. So that, that's a big piece of my coaching philosophy and my approach is kind of those things. We take care of those things and it makes everything else on the field a lot easier.
That's great. I mean, that obviously there's a lot of effort and a lot of time that goes into that. You must build that into your program and know that you're going to do that work. So that must. And does that ever sit across some of the hockey? Do you miss some of the hockey or some of the strength and conditioning and prioritize this sort of culture or this community?
Not too much, but honestly, even if it does, again, over my years of coaching, missing an hour of practice or skipping a lift, not saying every lift once a week or something, but, here and there, it pays off in the end. It pays off greater than, having that extra hour on the field. We do a lot during preseason as well. One of the greatest things that we have done over the years is actually take our team on an international trip. We went to Ireland a couple of years ago and just, we did play some, but just having the collective travel experience, even the sightseeing and, all of that, just that whole experience together made such a difference in our season, that followed that trip. So, just taking that time is definitely valuable. So yeah, we do that for sure.
No, that's great. I love to hear that. It's really cool. And I think it's been, as you said, I've had some good experience with those type of things as well. So yeah, definitely worth the investment. That's excellent. Who's influenced you in your coaching career?
Yeah, so I would say the two biggest influences actually are my parents. Both of them are teachers and both of them are college coaches. My dad coached track and field and my mom coached field hockey. So I kind of grew up in an athletic department, in a college athletic department. So it's kind of been my life. So really just seeing their experiences, learning from them, and I kind of go back to even my coaching philosophy, which especially over this past year or so has really been even more so solidified in that, my dad unfortunately passed away last year, but we had this celebration of life for him where like so many of his former athletes and his other coaches came. And there were so many stories that I had never known, never heard about. But what they talked about so much more with him was, his influence beyond track and field, the work ethic that he instilled, there were some tough times and those 6 a.m. practices and bus rides and all that. There were challenges, but ultimately, it made them better. It made them better prepared, once they graduated, to kind of be out in the real world and take on a real job. And, they were better prepared to meet a lot of challenges outside of that. So, overall, I'd really say it's my parents. I have done some things over the years. The NCAA Women's Coaches Academy was an awesome experience, being able to connect with coaches from many different sports across the country, and knowing that some of our struggles and some of the things that we have to deal with and everything, it's not necessarily unique to each of us, that there are a lot of shared experiences. So being able to kind of know, like, okay, I'm not alone, was really helpful in having those connections now for the rest of my career, really.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you bring up there. And it's something that we've observed with just doing these sort of webinars, is that one of the common threads that runs through is not necessarily about the winning and the losing, but more about the development of the people around us, and so, within teams, the individual side of that as well. So that's definitely a common thread here. So yeah, interesting to hear. If we talk about values, what would your values be? Where do you sit with values in your coaching?
Yeah. So, what I value as a coach, our team culture is paramount to what we do. And a lot of what goes into that, even through the recruiting process and things, is we look for those players that have those shared values of, team first, that team first mentality, that work ethic, the grit, and really having a growth mindset. So, that's really what we look for, is first, who's going to fit into our team culture. Even when we're recruiting, we're watching players off ball. We're watching players on the bench, and yeah, of course, we're going to watch what they do, when they get the ball, but it has so much more to do with, what they're doing in other times when they don't have the ball. Are they, talking positively? Are they having good communication with their teammates on the field? Are they encouraging? Or, what's their body language like? So, it's a lot of that aspect of things that goes into kind of our team values and what I believe is important, as a coach, looking for those players.
Excellent. Yeah, it'd be interesting to sort of this D1 journey that you're just starting now. It'd be fascinating just to track that and maybe have a chat with you in a year from now and see where you are, because really hope that you can maintain that and continue with that approach. But yeah, I guess, I don't know, maybe there is more pressure on winning or losing, but who knows? We'll wait and see. But yeah, good luck with that journey. Now, rules of thumb. Do you have any rules of thumb that you sort of adhere to or live by with the team?
Yeah, well, for me, a big thing is, I know, and this is, I guess, a little bit more personally, I know myself, and I've learned myself over the years. If there is, a challenge or a question or something put forth, I know for myself, I need, whether it's like a couple minutes or whether it's, okay, I need a couple hours or maybe the next day, to really sit back and evaluate everything like that. That's the type of person, communicator that I am. I need to make sure, like, I check any emotion that might be involved, things like that. I've learned in the past, you make decisions emotionally and don't always end up too well. So, I want to make sure that I look at kind of all aspects and all angles of whatever it might be. So I always take a beat, again, whether it's just, a pause, a minute or two in a conversation, or, I might need a day or so. So I make sure I don't rush to make any rash decisions like that. So yeah, that would be a kind of a rule of thumb that I follow.
Now, how does that go for you? Because I was as a head coach, that can be infuriating for people around you. And I know when I was coaching, head coach, and people ask you a question and you'd sort of just sit back and not respond or say, well, come back to me later. And they just want a quick answer sometimes. But I like you, I've been caught out with those quick answers. Oh yeah, that's fine, go and do it. And then a week later it comes back and you think, oh my goodness, did I really say that?
Yeah. On the field, it's a little bit different, but even then it's like, you'll say something, like, wait, and you watch it and you're like, no, wait, that's not right. That's not right. Okay, let's go back and evaluate that again.
Yeah, I've definitely fallen into that trap for sure. So yeah, that's a good one for coaches to look out for. You think about it before you sort of talk to it. Excellent. Now, you've highlighted a few really important qualities and attributes that you have in your environment and when you're observing and recruiting players, things that you like to see. But just drill into that a bit more. What characteristics and qualities do you look for in players?
Mm-hmm. So, a big one, I mean, you talked too about our shift, as we're going into Division I and making that move. And this has been something that's kind of been evolving too over the past couple of years, is really talking to recruits a little bit more in depth over kind of their motivation. We want to make sure that we are finding players that are continually wanting to push the envelope and improve themselves, and not coming in and necessarily saying, oh, okay, well, this is the standard, I'm just going to meet the standard. No, we want you to push past that standard and challenge yourself, because the more you challenge yourself and the better you get, the more the team, the better the team is going to get because of that. And that really shows leaders by example as well, that they're continually striving to kind of compete against themselves, and really push their standard higher and higher, that they're not just satisfied with just kind of the minimum standard. So that is something that, is going into a lot into our team culture, especially as we go through, this transition. It's definitely going to be a challenge. And, our definition of success for this season may very well be a little bit different, which is fine. And so we just want to make sure that the players are being able to hit individual benchmarks, but team benchmarks as well, and continue to surpass those and develop.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. Now, what do you find the hardest thing to coach? Is it something when you're out on the field or in the classroom or looking at the video, what is it that you think, oh, geez, I really struggle with this, or they never really seem to get this, or am I explaining this well? What is it for you that is like just, always every time this thing?
Yeah, I think it's an evolution too, again, with figuring out how best to coach your team and your players, in any given season. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is just every year your team's different, even though you might have a core group of returners, the dynamics change when you lose those seniors and you get in a whole group of freshmen. So it's kind of that evolution of seeing like, okay, how are we going to best get through with this group? But I would say a lot of it is, I'd say the challenging part is getting them to think outside the box a bit more. We set up a press and we say, okay, like generally speaking, you're in these positions. And okay, they're there, but then there might be a little shift that happens. And it's like, okay, so what do you think needs to happen here? Like, what can you do to adjust to that? So kind of getting them to think outside the box and problem solve on their own on the field, is, I would say, is a bit of a challenge. And we've actually used video a decent amount to help them see that and help them talk themselves through it. So we've seen a bit more success the more we use video, a little bit more on the individual basis of them. So
yeah, now it's often, and again, some of the responses we've had on these webinars have been somewhat similar to that, a little bit of game sense is how you can sort of get them to think on the feet or react to a situation, and if it's not been explicitly told to them. But yeah, that's as you said, I think you're absolutely right. It's an evolution of players' development for sure. Now, if I was to walk past your practice field, what might I see? What are some of the trademarks that I might see watching your teams train?
Yeah, so I would say, and I mean, I feel like I've kind of talked a little bit about this already, like even off the field, the communication piece is key. Making sure that we have a common language across the board so that everybody's on the same page, and communication, like the whole game. So making sure that we keep that up, it helps with just the energy, the mental engagement throughout a game, making sure that the whole team is on the same page. So I would say there would be a lot of talk, going on. I would say the other thing is just I like to teach, the passing game, possession, but with some patience. We find a lot of times, even when we're pressing, if you're patient and can just hold your shape and be disciplined and shift and keep the ball in front, the other team eventually is going to try and force something. And they're like, we basically force them to make the mistake, even with outletting. There are definitely times where, okay, there's the hole. Yeah, just go ahead and nail it. But it's okay, outletting. Okay, how are they set up? Okay, it's not just one transfer and then go. I mean, sometimes it might open up, but you might need to transfer it a couple times, gain a little bit of ground, start challenging, their forwards and seeing what holes are going to open up. But that patient game is one way we really approach it.
Who is your toughest opponent? And why is that the case?
I honestly would say our toughest opponent is ourselves. We are always our harshest critic. And, one of the things that we work on with our team in our team culture and kind of environment is it's okay to make mistakes. Our practice time is for learning, and the way you're going to learn is by making mistakes. So making sure that it's a comfortable environment and they feel safe to be able to take risks and like, it's okay. Hey, that didn't work. All right, let's try something else. But we more easily give other people grace when they make mistakes, but we're really hard on ourselves. So making sure that they kind of understand, like, no, it's okay. you know that it's okay if somebody else makes a mistake, but it's also okay if you make a mistake. So helping them to take some of that pressure off themselves. And we find that, when we do that, the more relaxed they play, the more fun they have, and the better they play. So I'd say that's probably the biggest opponent is ourselves.
Yeah, previous answer you're talking about the real rich communication you have, and again, if in terms of that sort of making an error, what might that look like if I was to see that? Is there tools and mechanisms you have in place for somebody if they do make an error or there's a failing somewhere? What might we see from the team in response to that?
Yeah. So we actually have a rule on our team. Our players laugh about it sometimes. We don't say sorry. We don't say sorry on the field. Because after a while, like, you're constantly hearing, like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, okay, it's, hey, I'll get it next time. So instead of that, like, kind of defeating, like, oh yeah, I made another mistake, sorry. No, like, hey, I'll get it next time. And for themselves, but also for their teammates to help pick each other up, like, hey, it's all right. That's the right idea. Just make it wider, just that communication piece of it. So it's more, I don't necessarily like to use the word positive, because I feel like positive is like sunshines and rainbows, and it's not that all the time, but positive in the sense of, like, what can we do instead of focusing on the mistake or the error? It's like, okay, what do we need to do to fix it? Or, what do I need to change? So.
That's very cool. I used to, one of the things that used to drive me mad as a player, and not so much as a coach, because I kind of was a bit older then, but a ball would be passed to a player, they'd miss it and they'd wave and say, oh, sorry. And you're just like, so stop waving, just track it. Good stuff. I like it. Now, what advice do you have for women getting into coaching?
Yeah. I would say mentors of all types, all ages, different sports, across the board. I feel like, and we've seen, especially more recently, some younger women getting out of coaching. And some of it may be, people talk about their families, and it's doable. I feel like women in particular feel a certain pressure about, raising a family and, what that time commitment looks like. I mean, both my parents were college coaches, so I've lived it from the perspective of a child. But you may have to get creative sometimes, but you can definitely do it. And there is a network. The more you talk to people, the more you kind of put yourself out there and reach out, there's absolutely a network that, that will help you. So I feel like that's the biggest thing is growing your network, having mentors of, different sports, different experiences. I mean, even things like having them in different conferences, so that would be the biggest thing is the mentorship.
Yeah, no, definitely, that's great advice. And I think absolutely fully support that. And I think that's a really important part of any coach's career is that ability. And it's sometimes they don't need to be sport people. They can be some of the best people I've had as mentors are sit way outside of sport, have little or no interest in it, but they can just sometimes provide a perspective that is just like, oh, yeah, I see it. That makes sense. So, yeah, really interesting. Great point. Thank you. Now, just in terms of I know you're one of the directors of the Black Field Hockey Network. Just talk to us a little bit about that. And then I've got a follow-up question after you sort of just talked a little bit to us about it.
Yeah, so the Black Field Hockey Network, we established it to really connect and support other Black people involved in the sport of field hockey. So one of the big things that we've been doing over the past, I guess, year and a half, 2 years now, is mentorship. So we have a couple of younger players that are paired with, some older, either like college players or, recent graduates to even other coaches that are involved in the sport. We have some officials as well. So, really offering that mentorship piece. Another aspect that has really kind of evolved from it is just really being a support system for Black people in the sport to go to and say, hey, if this situation happened, I don't know what to do. Who should I talk to? Where should I go? What recourse do I have? So, we have definitely helped provide some guidance, for some people going through some tough situations, handling some racist incidents that happen within their team or on the field, as well as engaging other teams and that have been reaching out for the education side, to really kind of answer questions and start the conversation or keep the conversation going. And I think that's a big part of where coaches might be missing the mark a little bit is they get uncomfortable. And so they just don't talk about it when it's like, no, that's actually when you really need to have the conversations, because everybody needs to get more comfortable with talking about, Black people in sport or just diversity in general. So.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Again, I'll follow up is what advice might you have for coaches in how to best nurture or encourage a diverse, inclusive environment? Is there tips or tricks that you think you've seen that have worked well that we could, adopt across a lot of environments?
Yeah. So, where in terms of coaching, where do we get our coaches from? They were players, right? So I think it really starts in that player-coach relationship where coaches need to listen to their players. Just because a coach may not see certain things because they don't have the experience, they don't have the lived experience and the perspective, listen to your players when they come talk to you. We've heard some incidences over the years where coaches are like, no, that's never happened before. Or, I don't really believe you. That's not what it's like. That might not what it be like, what it's like for every, white player on the team, but for that one or two Black players on the team, yeah, that's the reality. So listen to your players, hear them, problem solve together. If you don't know what to do, that's when you reach out to other people. I mean, that's Black Field Hockey Network. Hey, we're here. Reach out to us. It's having those conversations and finding ways to support those Black players, those minority players on your team, and making sure they feel heard. Because ultimately, if they're not feeling heard through their playing experience, how are they going to feel heard, as a coach? How are they going to see, okay, there is a place for me to be able to coach, that this is an inclusive environment, that it will be welcoming. So I think that really starts in that player-coach relationship piece.
That's great. Thanks so much. And we'll share the network's contact details and ways we can get in touch with the network on the webinar here. So that'll be fine. Now, your favorite drill or exercise. This is where we get to the point in time where we often have people drawing chalkboards out, coaching sessions in front of us, but yours is a little different today. Just talk us through your favorite little exercise that you have.
So through this whole conversation, communication has been a huge part of what we do. So it's this game called Tanks. Okay, it's all you need is basically some space, maybe 10 by 10, 12 by 12 or so, just kind of depends on how many people you have. The only other thing you need is ammo. So what we use for ammo are like, little koosh balls or stuffed animals, something like that. Like we get all our stuff from the dollar store. And you'll need a couple of like bandanas, or we use unused, clean, long socks as bandanas, as blindfolds. So you have, again, depending on how many team or how many players you have, you divide them up in maybe 2 to 4 teams. And there's a tank that's on the ground. So in the battlefield, the tank is blindfolded. The players that are on the outside are directing the tank. So the tank can move and you direct them, go right, go left to find the ammo. As soon as they pick up the ammo, they can't move, they can only aim. Okay. So what we find with this game, and then once they aim, you tell them like, yeah, throw, and they throw and they try and hit another tank. Once they hit another tank, that tank is out, and then they rotate the next person in. So it's basically last tank standing, whoever has tanks left. We usually will go through it once. We'll just kind of give them the basic instructions. We'll go through it once, and the challenges that they find, we'll kind of debrief, and it's like, okay, what was challenging? Well, they were telling me to go over here and I was like going right, but they wanted me to like go really far to my right, or it was like right here. So finding that common language and really working through them of, okay, when you say, go forward, am I like going forward at full speed, or am I just going forward a couple steps? What does that look like? So really getting them to kind of evolve what that specific language is. Because when we talk about communication, it's like, oh yeah, do this, do that. Like, okay, but who do you want to do that? How do you want them to do it? So, even with our own team, we break down our communication even to the point of, and get so specific where it's like, say I'm a defender, I'm talking to my teammate in front of me. Okay, she's over your right. Okay, so in that sense, okay, I know she's just telling me that she's there. Step right. Okay, I know I need to take like 1 or 2 steps to my right, or move right is, okay, I really need to like move all the way over to my right. So breaking the language down really specifically, so that there's no miscommunication. There's no, I'm not sure exactly what, I'm using your name and I'm giving you the specific instruction. So yeah, we love that game. I mean, it's fun. It's a great time. One for team bonding, but it's a great time to just kind of get the stick out of their hands, yet it's something that's still so relevant to what we need to do on the field. So yeah, that is Tanks.
That's cool. Yeah. And the thing that just thinking as you're talking there is that, you often hear coaches or players and just getting frustrated because there's no communication. Nobody says anything, and I always thought it's not, people just are not quite sure what to say, and so what you're talking about here, this kind of, I'm sure it's a real fun game. The players probably love this.
Yeah.
Because it is so, this stuffed toys and throwing balls, different to what they do all the time. Yeah. But I think the fact that you're working on a deliberate, and you spoke about a common language earlier on, I think that's the real goal to that one, is that you can really start to have a conversation. And obviously there's the two-way part of that, the listening as well. So yeah, I'm sure that's, how often would you play that game? When do you have you revisited?
We usually will play it, we don't do it too often. We usually will play it like once, maybe twice a season. Yeah. And we use it to, again, one with the communication piece of it, but two, kind of the second time we play it as well, it's just, it's a fun kind of inner team. Like we split our team into blue and white teams, so we compete throughout the whole season, like at practices in different areas. So that's a fun one that, that they have a good time with. Again, just kind of a chance to put their sticks aside, but they're also still working on that communication aspect of things. So yeah.
Good stuff. Well, Brandi, we're at the end of our time. Thank you so much again for taking the time. I know it's really busy for you right now, just kicking off a pre-season, new sort of status as D1. So congratulations on that. Good luck with the season. Good luck with the pre-season. And we'll share the Black Field Hockey Network details here so people can get in touch with you guys. And good luck with all that as it moves forward. So thanks so much, Brandi. Talk to you soon.
Of course. Thanks, Greg.